Hi guys, right, so welcome to today's Tuesday's training, our first one of the kind of new regime. I've just disappeared there, lost the connection a little bit. Snuck out into the summer house. I'm not sure if this is going to work out here, it just keeps disappearing, so we'll keep trying, and if it keeps cutting off then I'll have to go and find somewhere else. But thought I'd sneak out here. I've just done a little bit of a search for big spiders just in case. I don't want to be kind of like Little Miss Muffet. So just gonna see if I can invite a few people and then see how we go from there. So just give me a couple of seconds and we'll hopefully be able to get started. But I thought it'd be quite good just first of all to hang on, let's just work this out. Hang on, I've not done the whole inviting people on the live before, so let's give this a go. I'll just invite a few people. And so if you are watching, then drop me a comment, send me a comment here, and hit me with a like or something, and hopefully we can see you and see your comments and interact and all that kind of stuff. And otherwise hopefully we should be alright. So I'm just gonna keep invite a few more. Not quite sure. There we go. I think that's probably about it, hopefully. See, so basically the themes for this week in the group have changed, and I'm going to start doing a different theme on a couple of days of the week. So Tuesdays is going to be a training day. So I had a lot to think about what we could do for the first. I figured, well, being as it's new, it would be quite good to do it as change. So if you are with me live, please make sure you either drop me a like, let me know you're there, or stick a comment in here, tell me you're with me, interact as we go along. Otherwise, if you are catching the replay, please feel free to drop some comments and just sort of any questions that you have, because I can always play it back and still answer. So I want to make sure that you get your the information that you need. So a couple of things we've changed. That it's a subject that I'm really hot on. I do like discussing change. I do like things to evolve and to be different. I don't like things being the same all the time. So I think when you come to look at from a training point of view, there are a couple of really big sort of change models that you can look at, and the biggest one is probably one of my favourites, which is the John Fisher change curve. But I'm going to do that as a separate training because I want to do some handouts and things that come with that one as well, and I'm going to do a little freebie that comes with that. So that will come over the next... I keep losing the connection, so it's bugger. Anyway, so today's one that I wanted to do was a book that I read once, and a lovely lady who's actually in the group, Hayley, bought it for me as a surprise because I loved the book so much when I borrowed it. And that's the it's a guy called Dr. Spencer Johnson, and the book's called Who Moved My Cheese. Now, it's a fantastic book. It's quite comical because it's written about mice, but it's really poignant when it comes to change. So there's 4 mice. There is Sniff and Scurry, and there is He and Haw. Now, Sniff is a mouse that wants to kind of have a little bit of a sit back, see what happens, watch the changes, and then eventually kind of go along. Scurry is right in there, wants to, you know, move with the change straight away. And then you've got He and Haw, which are 2 mice that refuse to leave. One of them does eventually, and the other one chooses not to. So that's Chris just jumping around, letting me know that the internet connection is a bit jumpy. Yeah, I can see you, yeah. So he's still jumping around in the garden. So Basically, these 4 mice are in a laboratory experiment, and they are delivered a cheese on a regular basis. Now, eventually the cheese stops coming, and it's how these mice react to it. So obviously Scurry goes off to find new cheese, Sniff eventually does, and you know, he and Haw are left behind without cheese, and it's about their journey into leaving where they currently are and moving with change and finding new cheese. And there's a couple of really great little quotes in the book, and I'm going to post a couple in the group just to kind of sort of remind you, really, because they are quite funny, some of them. So one of them, probably one of my favourites, is smell the cheese often. And what this means is this is about reevaluating where you currently are, and this is about making sure that you are checking your current position, checking your current status. So if it's work, if it's in your business, you know, are you still current? Are the things that you're doing at the moment still the things that are needed? So you need to smell the cheese often. So for me, one of the things that I need to do is make sure that I am signed up to regular newsletters and bulletins, make sure that I'm aware of what's going on in the coaching world, make sure I know about new coaches that are coming through that are really popular and what they're doing, to make sure that the things that I do move with the times. So when I first started coaching, it was all about one-to-one, meeting people directly, and then all of a sudden Facebook became quite a popular way of dealing with business. Facebook Live now. So if I was refusing to do Facebook Live because I didn't like being on the videos and things like that, I would be missing out on a huge chunk of the coaching world. So if I was Scurry and I went straight in and did Facebook straight away at the very beginning, you know, I would have been having to deal with all the little kind of tweaks and changes that were needed. And then if I was like Haw, and it's not a very nice word, H-A-W, not the other type, then I would have struggled because I would have been left behind, and I would have been doing Facebook Lives at the end of the time when everybody else has stopped and it's no longer popular and they've moved on to something new. So it's really good to stay abreast with what's going on. So whatever your industry is, whatever you're doing, whether it's at work, business, career, anything like that, even when you talk about things like with kids and all that kind of stuff, you need to make sure that you are aware of the changes. You need to make sure that you are abreast with what's going on so that you can decide what changes you need, which ones you don't, because they're not all going to be relevant to you and your business, but you do need to make sure that you're constantly involving. Now, another one of the quotes that I quite like that is good is that the more important the cheese is to you, the more you try and hang on to it. So this is about kind of changes that maybe you don't want to change because they're important or because you really like them. So for instance, Facebook Live, it's something I like doing. I actually enjoy jumping on live and talking to you guys. I like thinking up new subjects to discuss and things like that. If all of a sudden Facebook Live started to kind of die off a death and it was no longer really something anyone was doing, and I was still doing it, still plugging away at it, then you kind of become a little bit of a dinosaur. You become a little bit old-fashioned. But because it's important to me, it's something I enjoy doing, I'm hanging on to it. I'm trying to kind of keep believing that it's going to be more popular again. Keep believing that one day it might come back, you know. This is, you know, the people that kept their VHS tapes long after the CDs came out and DVDs and things, because, you know, they were kind of hoping that the DVDs wouldn't take off and wouldn't be popular, and, you know, you'd go back. The you never know kind of syndrome. And, you know, the other kind of element that comes into it as well when it comes to things like change is finances. So if you're in an industry where you use, say like you're a nail technician and you've spent a lot of money on equipment, and then all of a sudden, you know, the kind of the acrylics stopped being popular and gel nails became popular. You've got all of this kind of equipment that's sitting there, and you don't want to buy the gel nail equipment because you've got a ton of equipment, but it's less popular, it's less in demand, and all of a sudden there's another little niche that is becoming really popular, And you're not part of that because you're hanging on with dear life to the old set and the old equipment and, you know, the old way of doing things. So I'm not saying that whenever there's a new kind of industry change, you should stop what you're doing and jump on it. You do need to be aware of what is important to you, what is going to be good for you and your business. But that's where understanding your niche and your business is going to come into it. And if you know that your business at the moment is kind of slightly dropping off because, you know, there's been this huge change and you're not part of it, or you know nothing about it, if you've got people coming into your shop or you're going to their homes to do hair or makeup or whatever, and they're saying, have you heard about this? And you're kind of going, well, no, I don't really know anything about that. Then, you know, you're not going to look like you know what you're talking about. And, you know, that idea of being an industry expert is going to be kind of ruined because you're not keeping up with the changes, and you're hanging on to what's important to you, not what's important to your client. And at the end of the day, it's your clients who are going to kind of mold the way your business goes. You know, for me, it's what you guys need. So I provide a service to you based on helping you with your career, helping you build your new business. And if I don't stay abreast of what's new, then I can't help you, can I? I can't tell you, oh, this is how we do Facebook Lives, this is how you train to do this is how you do that. Because if I don't know, then I can't help you, which means that then I'm out of date, means you're out of date. So you've got to be able to always know where your niche is, which is the type of people that you serve. Always know where they're going, which is really important, and make sure that you are always one step ahead. Hi Tiffany, thank you for joining, darling. I think this might be your first live with me actually, so welcome. Hello. I was just saying at the very beginning, I'm hiding out in the summer house, so I'm hoping there's no big giant spiders at the moment. I keep kind of doing a little bit of a look to one side. So we're covering change at the moment, and we're covering a book called Who Moved My Cheese. Oh, it makes me look like I've got big ears when I do that, so best not do that. So the other thing is around fear, which is more of the why we don't change. And when it comes to fear, it's about the way the book explains it is that you need to imagine new cheese. So this is about putting yourself in a position where if you went with the change, what would it look like? So when you're looking at changing your business and maybe things have started to slow down and it's not going the same way it used to be, and you haven't yet moved and changed the way you're doing things, you've got to sit back and you've got to look at what would that change look like to me and my business. So would it increase your sales? Would it increase the type of people that you're working with? Would it expand your niche? Would it put you out of your comfort zone? Would it be something that you need to go and get trained in now? Would it be something that actually you wouldn't like doing? So if you were a coach but you didn't want to do videos, Facebook Live for you would be the worst change ever. But you need to think, okay, so how is this affecting my niche? How is this affecting my business? And if you still decided that you didn't want to do it through fear, then unfortunately you're going to be kind of held back, and you know you're going to struggle to move with the next step and the next step, because you've kind of got this big gap in your knowledge and in your business. So sometimes our fear of doing things holds us back from making the changes we need. So when it came to doing Facebook Lives, I'd never done anything like that before. I didn't even really like videos. I hated the sound of my voice. You know, so a year ago to do something like this, there would have been no way in hell I would have done it. But I did a challenge with another group, and the group leader was saying, you know, Facebook Lives are really going to take off. They are the way forward. And I thought, oh, no, I can't, you know, no, I don't think so. It's not really me. So she kind of challenged me to do a couple of lives in her group and see how it went. And I did one live, and I absolutely loved it, which is really weird because, again, hated my voice, hated videos. I would avoid being videoed at parties and weddings and stuff like that. But I loved the fact that I could connect with people. I liked the fact that people could click on like and leave comments, and I could interact with people. all of a sudden there was this huge area of connection that I didn't have before. Before, the only way I can connect with my clients was on a one-to-one basis, either at their house, at my house, or at a Costa or something. All of a sudden I was talking to people in Australia, Toronto, America, you know, India. It was amazing. I was having these great conversations with these female entrepreneurs, and they were all over the place, and I loved that. So I was very lucky, because the change was something that I actually enjoyed doing, that I was comfortable doing, and that I ended up being okay at. I could do it, I was good. But the first day, I was frightened of it. I feared it. I was crapping myself. So fear can be the biggest thing that holds you back from change. And it's only the fear itself that you really need to worry about. And we'll cover that in another training, I think, because fear of doing something is a huge area, and to kind of broach it in this kind of 20-minute training is probably not going to be the kind of the best way of doing it, really. It's kind of just going, yeah, you're scared and you shouldn't be, and we don't want to do that. So the other part of the book, one of the other little quotes that I really liked in it, was one that says, spot the small differences. And this was about the fact that the mice at the time should have spotted that the pile of cheese was getting smaller. So all of a sudden their big stack of cheese was reducing, and they hadn't noticed that because they weren't watching it, they weren't careful for it. They assumed the cheese would always be there. They assumed whoever was delivering the cheese was always going to deliver it, and they assumed there was always going to be this huge stockpile of cheese. And eventually it started to reduce, and it was only when they had hardly any left that they realised. And this is a huge thing when it comes to business, where it says about spotting the small changes, spotting the reductions. So, you know, spot that all of a sudden you're not getting the engagement you were getting. Spot all of a sudden that people have started to leave your group. So for me, I keep a really close eye on the numbers of my group. Yeah, we had a huge clear out a little while ago, and we got, you know, quite a lot of people left, but that's because they were the wrong people in the group. They weren't here for the reason that the group is here. So you've got to keep an eye on those sort of things. If all of a sudden the amount of money you're bringing in changes and reduces, okay, you need to be asking why. What is it? Is it it's school holidays and it's Christmas, and, you know, people don't have the money to be spending on learning and development and, you know, sort of self development and all that kind of stuff. Is there a reason for it? Is it that all of a sudden I've got really shit at what I'm doing and people don't want to be here? Or is it just I'm no longer current enough? Is it that in the other groups and in the other pages and in Instagram and all of that kind of stuff that, you know, actually there's more going on there now, and this has started to reduce, and I'm still hanging on to the past and hanging on to what was important to me that's no longer important to my clients? So you've got to keep an eye on the small changes, because generally when it comes to change, yes, there are going to be some things where change is big. You know, you look at the Hurricane Irma and all that kind of stuff, massive change, very quick, didn't really expect it coming, a few weeks warning maybe. However, most of the time in business they are small changes. It's all of a sudden you've noticed that you haven't had anybody join your group for a little while. Okay, so am I not out there as much as I was? Am I not visible enough anymore? Is it that you've run a certain challenge 3 or 4 times, and every time you've run it you've had 20 or 30 people join, and then actually the last time you ran it you only had 5 people join? That's, you know, why? What was the difference? What changed? And that's a huge thing with when you're coming to deal with change. So to give it a little bit of a context, think about Blockbusters. So the video rental people, they were still calling themselves video rental, even though CDs had been out for ages and Blu-ray had been out for ages. Their kind of advertisements, the shop signs, all that kind of stuff, were just Blockbusters video rentals, and they saw it as though that's what they were known for. That's how their clients knew them. That's what was their thing. What they didn't realise was that, you know, even CDs had DVDs had started to drop off. Even things like Blu-rays were getting less and less kind of used. People were streaming, they were downloading, they were watching on their laptops, and Blockbusters missed that. They missed that whole niche. They kind of stuck with their old group of people. They'll be loyal to us. They'll keep coming back to us. You know, that won't change. And they missed the youth that were coming through that completely wiped the floor with the rental business. And unfortunately, they went out of business because of it. And they didn't change. They didn't move with the times. They didn't smell the cheese often. They held on to what was important to them. They didn't look for the reduced cheese. Whereas you look at HMV, that was another one, they nearly went under. The difference with HMV was they saved themselves right at the very end. And they did that two ways. The first one was they realised right at the 12th hour that they were going under and that things weren't great. So probably a little bit more like he instead of haw, and not quite as involved as sniff or scurrel. If you're catching on, you've just joined me on live, watch the replay and you'll know who those four mice are. But they were just almost too late. But they did manage to turn it around, and they did manage to start doing more. But the second thing that they had was they did have loyalty. And that was the big thing that they had that probably Blockbusters didn't. With HMV, what they had was they had great staff, and they had people that actually liked the shop. People that actually liked still being able to go in and buy from them. And they petitioned to keep the shops, and they petitioned to keep the company going, and they won, and it worked out. Very lucky, skin in their teeth kind of stuff. And they were, because let's face it, lots of companies have not been as lucky. But you go into HMV now, and they are selling t-shirts, cups, not just CDs. They're doing DVDs, they're doing big offers, the 5 for 20 quid and stuff. They are still hanging on to what's important to them a little bit, but they are beginning to make that change. They are making that turn, and they are learning from their mistakes. Now you look at Game, the gaming company, obviously. If you look at them, they have caught the change very early. So they were all about the games, all about the computer games, PS3s, PS1s, Ataris, GameCubes, all of those kind of things back in the day, and then all the new ones. They make sure that they are stocking the brand new Xboxes and all that kind of stuff when they first come out. Immediately they started to stock the gift cards where you could buy your online cards to play your online Xbox and stuff. But very soon the shops closed and got refurnished and reopened within a small window of time, and they've now got the VR systems in, and they've got little rooms that you can go in where you can play with your mates. They've kind of brought in that the kind of arcade back from the early years, but into a kind of VR where you can actually go into game now, put the VRs on and play your interactive games and things like that. They've picked up that those VRs were going to be really popular, and instead of just waiting and, you know, being a little bit like Sniff and seeing how it went, they went straight in there like Scurry. They're like, do you know what, actually we could own this market. We could be the first and only to do this. And they did it. And, you know, they've probably saved themselves from, you know, going under, because you look at places like Amazon and stuff now, even Xbox, that you can download so many games. These Kodi boxes where you can download games. Okay, a lot of it is kind of pirated and it's not legal, and there's all these different laws around it, but people are doing it, and the shops aren't where it's at now. Look at the TV shows, you know, Sky and things like that. They were huge, really holding the market. And then these little boxes came out where you could just watch any program you want, movies whenever you want, anytime. And places like Argos started to sell them. They were flying off the shelves. So companies like BT, they've jumped on that, and they are connecting themselves to them. Sky were the opposite. They were still hanging on to them and their boxes and what they do. And they've just updated it all. They're lowering their prices. Now they've brought out a loyalty scheme for their current clients, their customers. They're now saying, if you are already a customer for Sky, you're going to get all these new things and all these wonderful kind of loyalty packages and these free gifts at Christmas and all this to hang on to their current clients. And now with the box sets, you know, they are, I'm losing the connection again, so I think it's it looks to be every time a bit of a dark cloud goes over. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover, really, for a little bit of change, was this book, the Dr. Spencer Johnson's Who Moved My Cheese. I suggest you go and buy it. I'm not affiliated to it, probably should be really. I do tell absolutely everybody about it. It's a fantastic book and it's easy to read. It is literally 50 odd pages. You could read it in a day, couple of days, but it's got some real good moments in it, a little bit of light bulb moments, a lot of clarity in there, where if you're somebody who fears change a little bit, you're a bit of a sniff or a he, then, you know, it's a great book for you. If you're a whore, not the horrible whore, a H-A-W whore, then you need to get the book. You need to read it. You need to learn it. If you're a scurry, actually, it's probably not a bad idea to read it, because it's got a few warnings in there for you about rushing in and doing things too soon as well. But it's a brilliant book. It's really fantastic on change. So if you're somebody who fears change, if you're somebody who, like me, who loves change, get yourself a book. Actually, if you go online and you Google Dr. Spencer Johnson's Who Moved My Cheese, you can download a free version of it. It's a PDF. Actually, I think I will put the link in here for you, so you can actually get yourself a free version of the book and give it a good read. It is really amazing. It is really good and you should read it. So that's today's Tuesday training. I'm going to stick a few little pictures in as well for those of you that maybe can't watch the whole live. I have lost connection a couple of times, so hopefully you've been able to see it all. But when it comes to change, don't fear it. Go with it, enjoy it, and you know, lead from the front. You know, make sure you are smelling the cheese often so you know when change is coming. Keep an eye out for the reduced cheese. Make sure you know things are changing, you know what's out there. Don't hang on to the cheese just because it's important to you. You know, all of those little tips are really, really important. And if you can follow those little tips, then change is going to be easy. It's going to be something you can master. So hopefully that's been helpful. Like I said, I will do a big version of change with the change model, because it is my favourite, and I will do some stuff around fear as well over the next couple of weeks. So I'll put some links in the comments here, and please have a look at them. I'll put the book link in there, and I'll also put a link in there for some other bits and bobs as well. And if you do find that after the book you're still fearing change and you're still having problems, give me a shout. Jump on a discovery call with me. We can have a free hour, just not 3 hours, a free hour. We can have a chat, we can talk through it, I can help you understand it. But don't sit and just fear it, embrace it. Anyway, have a lovely Tuesday evening. I'm going to nip back indoors because it's bloody freezing out here. Have a lovely evening. Take care, guys. Bye.